He's putting on a show. I wonder what these are.
So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 13 Pro Max over 6 months later. Now in this episode, I want to talk about why I think the iPhone 13 Pro Max has been just a glorious device here over this time, and why I keep returning to this phone even though a lot of other great phones have come out. I did get this on launch day, which was way back in September, so it's actually a little over 6 months, and I paid a full like 1,300 something for this thing with taxes. Still a pretty high priced phone, but I think it may come down once the 14 Pro Max comes out. All right, so let's talk about the build and the design of this phone. But I can say something that keeps bringing me back to this phone is just kind of like how it just feels a touch above most devices. And I've said it before, but I feel like it's the stainless steel. I feel like it's just how they have a lot of attention to detail here, and overall it's just super clean. This overall build just feels a step above most devices. It feels to me like the most premium phone you can buy on the market. Now some people are going to disagree and say, you know what, bro, have you not played with the S22 Ultra? I actually own one, so yes, I have. It's just overall, this phone, you can see the precisely cut out holes right here, the buttons just perfectly placed right here. Just overall, I mean, it's a gorgeous piece of hardware. You just cannot deny it. It feels luxurious. It looks luxurious. And my favorite thing about it is not only it feels and looks that way, this thing has been pretty durable as well. So over 6 months, I got to tell you, of course I use the case. Come on. Everyone uses a case, but at the same time, it didn't feel like no phone was going to crack easily. But while I do call this luxurious and super premium, which it is, one thing I didn't like too much is I think it got a little bit too heavy. I know the heft gives it a premium feel, and yes, there's a trade-off of better battery life as well as thicker cameras. It's just a little bit bulky weight to me, over 240 grams. So definitely one of the heaviest phones in this size range. I believe the Pixel 6 Pro is lighter than this, as well as the S22 Ultra. Let's just put it this way. The XS Max, the phones that came before this in this size range, iPhone 8 Plus, these bigger devices, they used to be a lot lighter. But of course, they're a lot better today. It's not a big deal. You get used to it. But once you pick up a 13 Pro and then go to Pro Max, you'll really feel that weight. I oftentimes was using it on one hand, switching it over to the other, and I'll just do this. I'll just swap throughout the day just so I don't cause any carpal tunnel or anything in my hand, anything like that. So let's take it on to the display. First thing I want to say about it after 6 months, love the width of the display. There's just something that you don't really think about until you don't have a wider panel. Now this is on the 19:9 aspect ratio, so this display does allow you to read quite a bit of text across it without actually having to, feel like you're getting just smaller lines of text. So really enjoy that. It's really apparent when you're in the news application and you're reading an article or something like that. You'll just see it's got a good space, and Apple does pretty wide displays on most their phones, which is a really good thing. Did enjoy that. Now, I also really enjoyed the fact that this phone right here does give you such a nice overall calibration on the display panel. So the actual display panel itself is super well calibrated, meaning that it's not overly saturated, but it's not undersaturated either. It's just about tuned right. So if you don't want to play around with settings and trying to make it more saturated, anything like that, this is going to be a great phone for you. I am showing the S21 Ultra here, but you can see the blacks are really deep on this phone. One thing I noticed I didn't like over my 6 months with the display is that the display brightness sometimes wouldn't actually get to its brightest levels. It can hit 1,000 nits peak, and it does let you do it for the most part, but sometimes it would just dim and not let me get to the highest brightness. It was kind of annoying. And then I would just restart the phone and it will go back to letting me get to the highest brightness. This phone is also not the sharpest in terms of the pixels per inch. However, what it does do is give you enough. Like, it's over 460, so it's pretty solid, but it's not the sharpest you're gonna find on a phone. All right, when it comes to software, I can say right off the start, I don't only use iOS, I also use Android and One UI and stuff like that. So do keep that in mind when I'm talking about software, but at the same time, I've missed some of the Android features when using iOS 15, like no ability to split screen and stuff like that. I do miss that every time I'm on this phone. But at the same time, one thing I'm still loving about iOS experience is just the overall polish, man. Like, I just can't get over how smooth, how consistent the performance is, and just how great the app quality is. It's just so good. It's just, you can't beat it. Like, it's not beat so far. Like, nothing has beat it. I think the closest thing to this polish is the Pixel series, but this phone is super polished, and every single application it runs really well. Like, there's just nothing else to say about the software. All the iOS 15 features we discussed before all been great. There's an app library, an app tray, and widgets. I mean, with polished apps, and everything is consistent around the board. Everything matches up. Even the widgets got that nice corner. You see that corner right there? They match with the apps. They look perfect. There's no jagged look. Everything's consistent. It just looks great. But one of the things that's really been impressive for me has been the privacy. I just feel like there's a lot less, tracking going on here, a lot more control over your privacy. And I just feel like a little bit like more private on the iPhone. So I really enjoy how Apple takes privacy seriously. It's a really important thing, especially with the ongoing cyber attacks and things like that people are trying to do, in 2022, these scam artists and these idiots out here trying to do this stuff is just not cool. So being on an iPhone really gives you a little bit more reassurance with stuff like that. It doesn't mean you're 100% safe. You still have to employ some good tactics for your own security and privacy, but just being on an iPhone in general makes you a little bit more safe because you're in a walled garden OS. So pretty nice. And another thing is just the speed. This is something I've really been thinking about, is the speed and consistency of the updates. Now, this is something that Apple's had in their strong suit for a long time, but here's why I'm talking about this again. And that is because a lot of other manufacturers are promising updates. Then you buy their phone and it's fragmented. And I'm not just pointing out to just a Samsung device, for example. This happens on a lot of different phone manufacturers. They'll promise updates. You get those updates, but sometimes you'll be in the dust waiting for 1-2 months, sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes a week, sometimes you get it the first day. Or when Apple launches an iOS update, bam, everybody's getting it the same day. Why do you think there's videos about iOS updates and people are watching them? Because everyone's getting it at the same time. So the iPhone 13 Pro Max, 6 months later in the performance, and just like the software, it's been great. Now, I'm not going to say it's unmatched. It pretty much is in terms of animation smoothness, but some phones can pop things open a little bit faster. They can feel faster, like the OnePlus 10 Pro, for example, in some areas feels faster than this device. However, it's just the consistency of the A15. This phone also is super efficient. That A15 chip is a lot more efficient than you think. Not only does it improve the battery life, but this phone is one of the coolest to touch phones I use no matter what I'm doing. Be using the camera, playing a game, whatever, and the phone never gets really hot. Try that on some other phones and you're gonna feel that puppy heat up quite a bit. So definitely I enjoy the thermal management of this phone. It's pretty darn good, I'd say. All my thoughts about before, if Apple ever brings the 120 hertz to the iPhone, it's going to be amazing, has reigned true. This feels just like the Apple iPad Pro when they brought ProMotion to that device. So definitely this was a huge step forward for the Pro line of Apple iPhone. Another thing is the iPhone 13 Pro Max does have about 6 gigs of RAM, so it's not going to be quite as much as you're going to find on an 8 gig of RAM Android phone. But when you start going through the applications, you start to think, do I even need it? And the answer is no, you really don't, because this phone actually performs more like a 8 gig of RAM Android phone, or maybe even a 12 gig of RAM Android phone, you can argue. The thing is just butter. Like everything you open, it's just butter. So over 6 months, enjoyed how it manages RAM and applications in the background as well. My experience with the camera, as you all know, has been pretty good. I've talked about this many times before, and I don't want to, rave on and on about it. All I can say is that one of the most impressive things have been the macro mode and the video. I also like how they brought the zoom over here to the 3x, and then you go 15. Although I would like to see Apple bring like a periscope telephoto on the next Pro, something like that, and maybe improve the front-facing camera to give us a little bit better front-facing video. I know this is amazing already at 4K 60, but they haven't upgraded this camera in a little while, so it'd be nice to see an upgrade there. In addition to that, the cinematic was, to me, something I don't think a lot of people are going to use, but it's a great selling feature. All in all, the cameras on here are top level. They actually feel like pro cameras now. Like the 11 Pro was solid, but it still kind of felt like a phone. This phone actually feels like a pro camera in your pocket. Go ahead and take a look at some samples and let me know what you think. And these are different samples from any of my other iPhone 13 Pro Max videos. I can agree with you if you say the story about this phone is definitely the battery life. I mean, this is the only large phone I've used all year that I can actually say will easily, with heavy usage, easily, like you don't even have to try, will make it through your full day. And that's if you leave your house with 100%. You'll even be able to use GPS. You'll be able to go far places and you'll still make it the whole day. Not a lot of phones you can do that if you leave the house 100%. Take a look at the screen time. This reminds me, you ever like get a car and they have like an EPA, gas mileage rating or something, and then you get in the car and it actually gets better than what the EPA rated the gas mileage? That's kind of how I feel about this phone. You expect it to have good battery life because it's a big phone, but then you get it and it actually does better than what you thought. That's what's impressive about the 13 Pro Max, and I just wish Apple will keep going forward with this, because sometimes they flip-flop and they'll bring the next phone and then it has worse battery life and then we have to wait for the next one to get another good battery life phone. Hopefully they keep this track record going with the good battery life, because this thing is seriously impressive. A couple other things I want to mention. I found Bluetooth to connect very fast on this phone, and my phone call quality and reception strength has been very solid on this device. I used to have issues with some of my iPhones where I would just have really like one bar all the time, or I'd lose signal, or I'd get a drop call here and there. Not the case anymore. The 13 Pro Max actually reminds me of a Samsung phone and being really good in that area. So I want to wrap it up here, because the question is, with this newer green one that just came out, this is the graphite color, should you still buy this phone? And my answer to that question is, if you can wait, I wouldn't buy it. And the only reason is because we're not too far away from September. And then there's going to be potentially a 14 Max, which you don't have to go all out to the Pro if you don't need it. And if you want the Pro, they're likely going to change up and get rid of the notch and maybe put a new design on this thing. So I think you'll be regretting it a little bit if you want the latest and greatest, because it's not too far away. However, if you don't care about the fact that we're only like 4 or 5 months away from the latest and greatest 14 Pro Max, and you're just like, I want a phone now and I want the 13 Pro Max, go for it. This is a phone that I seriously feel like even in 3-4 years, you'll still be very happy with this product. Other than that, if I could rate this phone, it'd probably be a really high 9 out of 10 for sure. Definitely an amazing overall product. Let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Do you have one? What do you think? Are you planning on buying one? If you have questions about should you buy one now, should you buy something else, leave them in the comments below. We will discuss that down there. And thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all in the very next episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.